He is Nate Dreyer. I am Chandler.
Wow.
We're going to leave this in.
All right.
This is staying in the show.
To head over the timeline to Gable. Gable straight to the basket. Elevates. Slams it down over top of Arbaugh. Won't get it. Ryan dribbles to the corner. 15 seconds to go. Ryan Vanderjack up fake. Launches a three. Good. Oh my goodness. Out to the point. Rosema. Innocent space. Shot scores. 2-goal lead for the Bulldogs. 4 unanswered. Line, giving on to Titus. Titus angles, pull up shot for the lead. Good! Brady Titus, a scream to the heavens after he knocks it down.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to a special edition of the Tailgate Report. It's our basketball 2022-2023 preview. Hard to believe that the season has, as I said when we were leaving Ford Field, it's going to turn quickly in about a week and a half over to basketball season. That's exactly what we've done. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Timmer. First off, of course, want to acknowledge where we're sitting. It's a long time coming, but finally done. We have the new MGN studio here, finally finished off, that we'll be able to do Tailgate Report and a lot of other cool stuff in. So first off, thank you to my dad who helped build this. Did a lot of it. We're in the corner of my office here at work, and we've turned that into a cool new recording studio. So yeah, first off, Chandler, have you recovered from the end of football season? Hopefully, because I gave you about a week.
Yeah, no, I think I'm fully recovered. Not a lot of time, but I think I'm fully recovered, ready to get in basketball mode here. I mean, still got our minds on football a little bit, but I ready to watch some high school basketball for sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've got a big winter, of course, loaded with basketball. We always try to slide some hockey and different coverage in as well throughout the course of this winter season. Let's start, though, by going back a little bit, and let's go to the end of football season, because we haven't done a tailgate report since the end of the first round. When Grandville wrapped up their season, we kind of just stopped the tailgate reports, and after that, first off, huge thank you again to everyone that tuned in. We broke every listenership record possible all year long, but especially the playoffs. I mean, you're talking... for a broadcast like us to see numbers that are around 10,000 or so on listenership is really incredible. There were some of these weeks that I won't get into it too much, but I know some of the numbers of us versus some of the terrestrial radio stations and some of the stuff, and we were P1 during part of Caledonia's championship run, so that's really cool, and I'm really thankful to everyone that kind of helped make that possible. Of course, that was a really, really, really unique run, and hopefully we'll have some cool stuff this winter as well to try to build on that a little bit, along with a lot of coverage right away, and we'll get into what this week looks like, because it's a really fun first week of the year with 4 games in the first 2 days. I have 4 games in about a 24-hour stretch that we're going to have to start out our season, both at Grandville High School as well as at Calvin. But playoff recap, Caledonia, we stayed for the most part with the Scots. We had one Oak Ridge versus Belding game that I won't get into too much because no one cared live, but we're talking about ratings blow-ups, and that one maybe wasn't as big as some of the Caledonia games. And the Caledonia game, of course, is where we finished things at Ford Field. Give me your first thoughts, I guess. Just kind of, we'll talk about the championship game a little bit. We'll go some inside baseball and what our day looked like as well there at Ford Field. But just some of your thoughts on this Caledonia year. They really, for two guys that I think I won't say we were Caledonia, I don't want to say the word hater, but we were a little bit lower on them compared to a lot, especially in the early part of the season. We wanted them to prove it. A team that was so built on the offensive line, lost all the offensive line. What were they going to be able to do? Well, it turns out we were wrong, because in particular the game against Clarkston in the first half against Belleville we'll talk about. I mean, this team quieted any question you may have had.
Yeah, they sure did. I think you're exactly right. I was lower on Caledonia coming into the season. You see when we're doing our preview show for the football season, which feels like it was not that long ago. You look at some of the rankings for some of the journalists across the state, and you see Caledonia at the top of the list, and I'm thinking, yeah, Caledonia is a really good team, but I mean, we always talk about how good the OK Red is. Of course, you still got Rockford in there. Grandville had a great season as well. So you start looking at the teams in the conference, like, you don't know how far head and shoulders are they better than the teams in the rest of the conference, and after they lose that game to Rockford in the regular season, you're kind of thinking the same thing, like, okay, Rockford is going to be the team that goes on the run in the playoffs. But as soon as Caledonia pulls the upset in a close game there in the playoffs is when they just picked up all the momentum in the world, had some dominating games the rest of the way throughout the playoffs there, and proved me wrong that they really are one of the best teams in the state. They go head-to-head in the state championship game with one of the perennial best teams around, some of the most talent you're going to find on the high school football field at a single time. And they gave them a run for their money. Played a solid first half for sure, and a second half too, a still respectable game, even though they didn't get the win.
Yeah, I mean, led still right around the end of the third quarter. So, they definitely really impressed myself and a lot of other people with how that ended as well. And, again, that state championship game, so many storylines, of course, going into it. As I joked, it was the biggest game of the day. As I mentioned, it was quite the setup in the broadcast booth for us because Chandler, who was always the industrious young man, was able to discover where the remote was to put the Michigan game on. One of the two, we had the MHSAA feed on one, we had the Michigan feed on the other. So you were able to find that and watch. And I think we stayed 99.9% professional during the broadcast. I did listen back, and there were some moments where there's just a little bit of silence, except for high fives in the background. What on earth is that? It's a timeout. Well, guess what? But the funny thing we were mentioning when you look at the game is how they crossed paths. Caledonia's winning, Caledonia's rolling. At one point in time, looks like they were going to be up 3 scores, maybe even at kind of right before the half, and the way things were, or they're going to go up 2 scores, a chance to go up 3 scores to come out of the break. It's okay, they're going. And then that's at the time Michigan was losing. Then all of a sudden, there's this exact crossover point when Belleville and Michigan take over at the same time. And the energy changed. Our energy stayed up because, we're trying to not watch TV and whatever. But you just see, Donovan Edwards, streaking. I made some comment about Donovan Edwards at West Bloomfield to help break the point home. But no, that was, I don't want to say that's my main thought of the day from our perspective, but that balancing act is something I've never done before and hopefully never have to do again in the booth.
Yeah, I think that was an accomplishment. I was I was giving it everything I could to stay focused on the one game. I knew, of course, as a Michigan fan, I was going to have to pay attention to what was going on to some extent because there's no way to completely avoid the events of, and notifications of what was going on in the Michigan game. So I was like, if I got it on in the background, I can focus on the game in front of me and then hopefully during the breaks check out the Michigan game. And I think for the most part, I was able to do so. There was a couple times where I was looking at you, and of course the TV, conveniently was right over top of where Nate was sitting. It wasn't, but it worked out pretty well. But I know a couple times I'm looking over, and we had our spotter next to us, and he's giving me updates as we go along. And the one time that got me, I know, is I was looking to make eye contact with you, Nate, and I look up and I see Edwards. I think it was the first long touchdown run.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
And I was like, is this a replay? I don't know what's going on because I kind of had been not paying attention to that game. I was doing my job. And then I just see a Michigan player running down the field and scoring a touchdown, and I completely lost my train of thought. So I know that was the one time, but I think other than that, I think we did all right.
Don't mention the spotter. I don't know if the MHSA knew he was with us yet.
Oh, yeah, the invisible man.
No one there. No, I was more concerned about you, though, than myself in that regard because, I have to, I'm, watching, through binoculars, calling the game. You're the one that's more watching 1,000-foot view and could, it can space out for a second. No, that's good, though. But, the game... Bryce Underwood, the top quarterback in the sophomore class for Belleville, he Caledonia got to him. The first half, they're bringing the pressure. He made a lot of bad throws, but then we saw in the second half as Belleville started to wear down. Caledonia probably plays more two-way guys than any other. And again, they're the smallest team smallest school in Division I, and eventually you see them start to get worn down. That's when Underwood has chances. But man, Underwood made some plays in that second half where it's all right, I can see why, maybe you didn't see in the first half, but then there's just points where it's Caledonia just played this game perfectly, and this team, which is just almost everyone they play is a scholarship athlete. I literally don't know if they have a non-scholarship athlete at the next level on that team. I'm not going to say the joke I was going to make about scholarship athletes. We're going to leave it there, but I think everyone knows what I was just thinking. There, yeah. I said next level, but I meant scholarship athletes in general, I guess. I'll put you on the spot. Does this championship hold?
We'll see.
Don't answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll see.
But back to the game. I mean, Underwood and company really so impressive in that second half. They took over and you saw the plays he could make.
Yeah, I think I really do think Caledonia had a great game plan going into it, and they were able to execute on that in the first half. I think you saw him miss some throws, and some were due to pressure that they were bringing in his face, and some were just you could tell they had sped Underwood up a little bit, and he was missing some throws you probably normally see him make, and you're thinking, okay, Caledonia's kind of cracked the code here. I mean, there's been a lot of teams that have tried to pressure him and get him off his rhythm a little bit and have been unable to do so. Of course, Underwood's still a very young quarterback when you're talking about 2 years at the high school level, and he's already got two state championship rings. But yeah, you could see him kind of as the game goes along, whether that's partly due to the size and wearing on Caledonia's defense and some of those two-way players getting tired and just kind of the nature of the game that opened things up a little bit. But you could see Underwood get into a much more of a rhythm, get a lot more comfortable, started hitting on some of those throws and really opened up the playbook, got some bigger plays down the field that ultimately extended that lead for Belleville.
This is the episode that's going to get us in trouble. I think I'm out now of anything more to say. Lastly, on football, award adjustments. If you think back and kind of putting myself on the spot too, I'm just trying to think of, we had done our postseason awards right after that first round of the playoffs. I really don't know how much I would change. I would probably look to Danny Brown at South Christian for Coach of the Year, since he did take that team to the state championship. I mean, obviously Derek Pennington deserves credit as well, especially what they did against Clarkston. I think took off. I think Player of the Year, we both had McKenzie / Jaden Terry Rookie of the Year. I had voted. Obviously, I mean, Tim Kloska's championship performance deserves, that gets him up there being a champion. Team of the Year, South Christian, West Catholic, I think then get it because they. I mean, you can argue actually, I'd probably still say Team of the Year Caledonia for going to the D1 champion, even though they didn't win the championship, to go to the D1 championship as a West Side team, to beat Clarkston the way they did. I think those would be some of the adjustments and names I'd maybe say different. But I think the clearest one for me is I think Danny Brown winning. I mean, of course, Landon Grove and West Catholic won the championship too, but I think Danny Brown faced a little bit more competition along the way on that whole championship run. So I would give him a nod on that.
Yeah, I think I do think the South Christian team, now that they've won the state championship, they kind of somehow were maybe slightly under the radar the whole time a little bit.
I agree.
It just kind of
they beat Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
Well, I think that's the moment where we're like, okay, this is real.
Right, yeah.
You knew they were a good team, but of course, when you've got JRCC there, you're kind of like, okay, how serious is this? Are they going to be able to get past them in the regular season there? And then once they're able to do so, kind of establish themselves that they were going to be a legit contender and eventually taking that one all the way. But yeah, I think even though they got the final hardware, you still have to be impressed with some of the teams that didn't win the state championship. Of course, Derek Pennington at Caledonia, one of them. I think when I'm thinking players of the year, I don't think I would change my pick from Mace McKenzie at the end of the year. I think he still played very well in the state championship game. Tim Kloska, I think he was our pick going into the season. It was kind of the ones that was almost too chalk for me to pick, where it's like, so you can't deny what he did too. But I can't.
Jake DeHaan then, of course.
Yep, and others. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So that's enough football. It's basketball now, and that's exactly what we're going to get into. And that's a perfect time. We're going to start previewing the Grandville Bulldogs season. And in order to do so, let's first go to our Coach's Corner. Had a great chat with second-year now head coach Desmond Young. Really good interview. Talks a little bit about what he learned in kind of year one, year two, and an exciting team. Wide open OK Red. Look out for this Grandville team. I got excited certainly listening to him and talking with him a little bit in this interview. So make sure you do that. And, of course, we've got a busy week coming up. Friday, Wyoming versus Grandville. And then the first three games of the invite from Calvin. We'll have coverage that our day culminates in Northview versus South Christian, which is probably the two best teams, I would argue, in West Michigan, possibly, going head-to-head in that game. So that's a really good one at Calvin University. I always love going to Van Ord Arena. The last game of the day, also on MichiganSportsRadio.com. Eric Wells and the Grand Rapids Catholic Central team will have coverage of GRCC versus Rockford. Interesting one there. By the way, 35-second shot clock. That's unique.
Okay.
Old people like myself hate that. I don't want the three-point line even, some would argue. But if you like that kind of thing, it'll be an interesting day for sure. I'm going to stop talking. Here's Coach Young. And welcome back, everyone, to MGN and our Coach's Corner segment. Now joined by the head coach of the Grandville Bulldogs, Desmond Young. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm glad it's Friday, and getting ready for the weekend. Had to practice in a little while, but what about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I'm excited for basketball season to tip off right here, and let's get right into it. Second year, of course, here for you coming in as a head coach in general at the varsity level, and also as the head coach of the Bulldogs. I guess let's start by taking a look back on that first season, some of the lessons that you maybe learned, and the excitement that you bring from those lessons into year two coming up here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Last year, I thought everything went by so fast. You get your first varsity job, you don't really know all the ins and outs of what really takes to be a very successful program. But then once you get in the season, I feel like everything just goes by so fast. And then you get into the OK conference and OK Red, and it's just a grind all day. Every game you got to come to play, home or away. I think that's one of the things that I took away is being prepared every single game for every single game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm excited to see this season, what's coming up, and a really interesting team you bring back. We'll get into a lot of the different pieces of returners and you guys as well, but the first talking point that you've seen a lot of stories around is your junior forward, Cam Ragnaris, and a guy that's starting to pick up a lot of D2 and maybe more type offers coming up right here. It looks like a lot of growth that he's had in this offseason. Tell us a little bit where Cam is at and what we can kind of start to expect from him going into year two here at the varsity level.
Yeah, Cam has taken a major step in his development from when I got him last year until now. And I think for him, he's at the point now. I think he's finally starting to love the game of basketball. I always thought he liked it, but now I can see the next step for him is actually loving it, and he's actually putting the time into it every single day. He's grown. He's one guy that he wants this, and you can kind of see that from his play at the end of last year, going into the summer, and in the preseason so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Just seeing some of kind of the preseason talking of different scouts and things that have seen him, talking about the jump shot and the different things that he started to develop. That's really exciting, especially with some of the other pieces that I think are both returning and new around him. So let's kind of start first, Coach, looking at the guards. Obviously, you look at guys like Tyson Mann, Ryder Haight, Quentin Hendrickson, Drew Hungerford kind of as a guard and a wing, guys that are returning, some other guys as well coming in. Tell us a little bit about this backcourt mix that you have this year, because it seems like a really exciting one to be able to add to this attack that you have.
Yeah, honestly, I think the difference between this year compared to last year is going to be guard play, in the sense of I think we have a little bit more firepower from the guards. We'll be more consistent on the offensive end. I think last year we were kind of stagnant, but I think this year we'll get a lot of ball movement. We'll shoot the ball from the perimeter, and I think that's the one thing about the guards that we have returning, between Tyson, Quentin Hendrickson, Ryder, those guys, Drew Hungerford. They played significant minutes last year, and I know Tyson started every game last year. Quentin started playing a lot towards the end of the year. Those guys have been around, they're around for the summer and stuff like that. So it's an interesting group between our guards and our forwards and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I guess kind of combine then also maybe looking at the 4 spot, the 3 some as well. Tell us about kind of what those pieces are looking like, some of the newcomers as well that we can expect with this team, along with some of those established names that we know from last year.
Yeah, for sure. 4 spot, the 4 spot or the 3 spot. Corbin Heckman, he played a little bit last year. He backed up Cam some. He'll probably slide into that 4 spot. I can go I can go some different directions if I want to bring in more shooting. The guy like Logan Stockwell, he was a junior last year. He didn't really play much, but he's probably had the biggest summer out of a lot of our guys that people don't even know much about. And so he'll slide in there a little bit. And then I have a sophomore up on varsity as well, and Colin Haybor. He can shoot the ball. He's a shooter too. So I have some different options I can go that will go with the Tyson Manns, the Quentin Hendricksons, and the Riders, and Cam.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I think you look at this team, and last year the defense you guys brought to the table every night. It's why every single game of the OK Red, even on nights where you guys frankly had your offensive struggles, you found a way to stay in there every single night. Tell us a little bit about that. Last year's a lot of physical, kind of quarter-court, half-court man, principles. I know at Grand Rapids Christian you ran some more press stuff when you were there with that program. What is kind of the defensive philosophy looking like this year? More of the same, maybe some other stuff mixed in there. How is that going to look?
For me, I'm a man-to-man guy. I mean, I think everybody knows that. The difference is, yes, we lack a little physical strength compared to this year, but the difference that we can make up with is we're a lot quicker and we're a lot faster. I mean, I'm still going to be the man-to-man guy, half-court guy. I'm not a press guy just because I just don't have the numbers to really do that. But I think the defensive principles will still be the same. Obviously, our biggest goal is, we got to keep Cam on the court. I mean, he can't get in foul trouble for us, because then we're thin behind him. So protecting him, I think we'll do a better job with keeping guards in front of us this year versus getting driven by. Because I thought last year we got driven by some guards a lot, and I think this year we can keep some guys in front of us. Yeah, no, that's great. And let's take a look, kind of previewing quick your spot within the OK Red. The OK Red is always wide open, but this year, the amount of coaching changes, player changes, everything we've seen, I think it's as open as it's been in a long time. I mean, you can even make an argument, to some extent, there might be 8 teams that can beat all other 8 teams, every single night. It's that sort of competition. Tell us kind of about the OK Red this year, some of what you're expecting to see and how this team's going to fit into the picture. Yeah, honestly, this year I've been looking at other teams and just seeing what other teams got coming back. I honestly think the OK Red is wide open this year, really wide open. I think the biggest thing is you got to win your home games, and some games you got to steal some of those games on the road. But I think anybody, I mean, you have to come ready to play in OK Red every single night. I mean, against anybody, because I think anybody can upset anybody. I mean, we got a couple of new coaches between EK and West Ottawa and stuff like that. But I think we all kind of have a sense of what teams have and what they got coming back. But the thing about it is you got to come ready to play those nights too, no matter who you're playing. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm so excited to see the way that things are gonna shake out. Not very often do you have the ability to see a program like West Ottawa lose a coach like Coach Windemaller, and then also a program like East Kent would bring in a 3-time state champion to be their head coach. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how that all shakes out. And, of course, that's tough, but also the other thing that's super tough is your December schedule. I mean, between showcases, between some of these games you've had scheduled, starting against Wyoming, who is always one of the best coached, toughest teams. Tell me a little bit about the importance and the expectations you have in some of these first games, really learning what this team has against the best of the best from right off the jump this first month. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is my overall goal is I want to turn Grandville High School or Grandville, the city of Grandville, into a basketball area. And I think for me is just getting our kids in the spotlight of playing those really good teams, those teams that are known. And so for my schedule and the non-conference schedule, I want to play those good teams. So that's why we're opening up against Wyoming. And then the next day we turn around and play Calvin Christian, who's been very good. But they're obviously, those two teams are different styles. And then you turn around, we play in a showcase, and you could end up seeing you got West Catholic, then you got Northview, and then in the middle of the season we play Grand Rapids Christian. Yep. So it's for me, my goal is just I'm trying to build it here, and I think if we play the good teams, people will want to come see that, and people will want to be a part of this program. No, I totally agree, and you could see it building through last year. I think the excitement around this team and this program, and I think it's only going to explode this year because I think you guys have got a chance. We talked about how wide open the OK Red is. I'm excited to see this team's role in that going forward. Thanks again, Coach, for your time, and good luck coming up this season. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. All right, Grandville head coach Desmond Young here on MGN.
The sinister cries haunted Mary through the night. Dawn neared, and still the voice tormented her. She ran towards the safety of her car, flung open the door, and a coyote had somehow gotten locked inside. But the damaged interior was covered thanks to Farmers Insurance. Coyote Carpool, August 1st, 2015. Talk to a farmer's agent. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Contact the Scott Bates Agency today, 616-531-3441. A proud supporter of MichiganGameNight.com.
Can you identify your number one personal trait? The thing that you do better than most others? If not, this may be a good time to think this through. If you're really good at writing, then why use the phone? If you're great on the phone, why use email? If you have exceptional human relation skills, why sit back and let others lead? I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities Company. Playing to our strengths is something we do very well at Centennial. And if you're already a customer, you know what I mean. If not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Nate Chandler here on our winter basketball in particular tailgate report preview here for the season. Thanks again to Coach Young. Terrific interview for coming on with us to get the season underway. This interview also will play in the pregame show of the Wyoming game for sure. I might just replay it too, so we don't have to talk as much on the second game of the year pregame show as well when Grandville takes on Calvin Christian to tip off that showcase invite, the invite at Calvin. All right, Grandville basketball season preview. Let's look into it from some of our perspective and give some of our thoughts on the year. We've got highlights, or at least just actually the game itself, from one of their biggest wins of the year last year against Grand Haven at home. Really fun Tuesday night contest in that one. Granville team, they lose some, but the main thing about them in a wide open OK Red, beg your pardon, is we'll talk about the OK Red more and how open it is. They probably return about as much as everyone. That's really, really big. You know, again, you lose Gable, you lose Johnson in particular. There's a couple guys that were big scorers for you. But the one guy that you do bring back that's almost like getting a new player in some regards is Cam Rigneris. As a sophomore last year, he was really impressive. I don't know if I've seen one player going to his junior. Now he's got Grand Valley, I think Ferris, and he's almost starting to tip into that D1 type prospect. Grown a little bit physically, but in particular, his game's grown. Coach Young talked about his motor, how that's gone up, how he's kind of started to click in his junior year talking about basketball. Seen from some scouts and some of the preseason stuff, they're talking about a fluid jumper. He can knock down some shots now, which we saw a little bit of last year. All of that comes together with Cam Chandler, and that is where this team, I think, is going to be able to revolve around, because he could be on a different level as, yes, the shot blocker, the defender he was last year, but if he has the full offensive complement that we're talking about, that's a really, really special junior, and it gives this team the special edge on the inside.
Yeah, I think it does. I think talking about a player that you could see, you know, I've seen him play a decent amount now at this point, and, you know, you see the physical size, and you see just how comfortable he is, you know, on the basketball, you know, court as a young player, but I think that you start to see a little bit more development physically, and then also, yeah, just, you know, kind of getting more comfortable with the speed of the game at the varsity level. And I think you're talking about a player that can do some serious damage when he's now starting to develop in a system now, second year under the coaching staff here as well, where he can get a little bit more familiar with everything and now can be a serious weapon as he gets into his junior year.
And then it's, of course, key to have shooting, have terrific guards around him. They bring a lot of that back, and in particular, I think are going to bring back some guys that should find a little bit more consistency in their second or third years on varsity in terms of scoring, shooting in particular. Coach Young talked about that. I mean, let's face it. There were, what's the old saying? There were points during the season last year that this team couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. I mean, there were just points offensively that they would get the looks. They just wouldn't go. The offense would be moving. They just couldn't get it to go. And there were guys that it just seemed like the whole team kind of had these hot and cold stretches that, like, the scoring was there. You saw it when guys had their peak. They're putting up 20, 25 points a night. They just couldn't always get it to come together. It always came out in kind of one guy having to rise to the occasion, help carry just enough offense to stay in a 55-50 type game, which they could do because of their incredible defense that'll be just as good this year.
Yep.
So what do they return at guard, at wing in particular? Tyson Mann, the first name. He's going to have to be the real leader. Ryder Haight. Quentin Hendrickson. So interesting what he, of course, developed into throughout the course of last season. I mean, there was no hotter scorer off the bench than this guy at points in last season. Drew Hungerford. I think of Colin Hybor comes up as a sophomore. That's an interesting wing as well. it just feels like they're a little bit smaller, a little bit less physical, but there's some athleticism, there's some consistency in shooting this year that I think is going to help, especially when you have Cam Regneris on the inside of things.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to help. You start with, you got the inside presence that we talked about with Cam Regneris, just as a building block to kind of help draw the defense in, and then try to surround him with some guys that can shoot the ball. And I think some of the names you mentioned were some of the guys that were knocking down shots last year, and now you just look to kind of build on that consistency. You saw Tyson Mann be able to shoot it pretty well, Ryder Haight as well. Quinn Hendrickson knocked down some big shots from long range as well. So
that East Kent, was that the one that he hit like 3?
I believe so.
It was really impressive.
Yep. So I think you've got the guys returning, that can knock down some shots. We're going to have to fill more of the point, like true point guard, ball handler at all times. I think you've got Tyson Mann that can kind of slide into that role as well. But I think you're looking. It's just, as a coach, it can be frustrating sometimes. You can draw guys open, but sometimes you just need them to make a shot. I mean, that's the simple breakdown of basketball right there. And so I think there was times last year where the guys were open. You just needed that consistent ability to knock down shots. Johnson was one of those guys. Yep. He really rose up last year and kind of rose to the occasion, made a lot of big shots, was a leading scorer for this team, and now you're kind of looking for that development out of some of these guys that we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's, you kind of look at the team. You mentioned, Tyson. I think Tyson is going to have a big year. I think it just feels like last year, now that he's going to be more of the focal point at the perimeter. There were times, of course, Braden Gable, for good reason, dominates the basketball. Last year, Johnson dominates as kind of a scorer off the ball. I think you're now putting Mann, because you have several guards that I think can all kind of facilitate and do things. I think you put Mann in a better position this year where he can really show out. He should be healthy as well coming off a football season now and some of the things he dealt with there. So that's good. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see all the guys. Talk about newcomers, talk about youth with the Grandville boys this year. You got a few JV standouts coming out. Talk about Hybor, the sophomore wing. Don't know a ton. I'm curious to see him play. Coach Young mentions him, and I think he's going to be an interesting piece to add, probably more shooting. The main name here, though, is Corbin Heckman. Mostly came in as a backup last year to Cam Regneris. He showed an ability to knock down threes, showed an ability to defend on the perimeter, even some. He'll need that playing the 4, quite likely. He's a really unique piece at his size and skill level, Heckman.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see that the way the Bulldogs utilize him, if that's coming off the bench and kind of what they're going to do rotationally when he comes into the game as potentially a bigger body player there, where they can use him in some versatility on defense and then also on offense as well. When you're talking about a guy with some size that can also knock down some outside shots, I think you saw him play some minutes last year off the bench and kind of saw some flashes of what he could be, and now looking to establish that in a little bit more of a consistent role.
And this is, by the way, my first apology to Hybor. If it is Haybor, instead we got to get our official pronunciation in yet still from that. So that's my Dutch apology as a Dreyer. That's my official apology on that. I probably should be able to get it, but we'll of course have that down by start of the season. Thing with this team though, Coach Young mentioned it. It's roughly the same system: physical, tough, mean. He loves man-to-man defense. They don't necessarily have the numbers and depth to do some of the pressing that, like Grand Rapids Christian, where he was before. So we know what the defense is going to look like. That's the key. If there's one thing that impressed me about Desmond Young as a coach, even as he was going through so much of that learning curve coming to the OK Red and a team that struggled to shoot, my goodness, his team defensively, each and every night. I don't know if they give up one uncontested shot all night long. He is unbelievable as a defensive coach. These guys buy in. They're athletic. They'll be able to run to the ball, probably do some different things athletically too. Really impressive. It's just a mean physical defense. A little handsy, a little touchy. Sometimes they got in foul trouble, but that's part of the physicality that you bring to the table.
Yeah, I think that's something that they're going to live with. I think you saw the rewards of what that defense can be last year, and all the things we just talked about are really nice, and that's what's going to be what takes them potentially to the next level. But I think when you play night in and night out with the defense the way it was you saw last year, how many games that can keep them in. Of course, they're going to look to try to close out some of those games that got away from them last year with the offense and an improved offense, but the defense is going to play, and it's going to keep them in a lot of close games.
Despite all of the relative struggles to some extent they had last year, in a final record that was right around 500, below 500 in conference, again, you have to remember, with this team, I think the main first goal for Coach Young in building Grandville basketball up, turning into a basketball school, like he said, is the goal, which that's the tough thing about coaching at Grandville. There's a hockey team that, for good reason, takes a lot of attention in the winter when they're winning and going to the Frozen Four. Most years it seems like a lot of times, or at least in the regional championship or beyond. I mean, been to Ferris State for 2 straight years now doing those. We're not going to talk anything more Ferris State, by the way. We did that last time there was a game. We're not talking again about it.
Why not?
I don't want to. But they started a fight. That was on them. You don't swing your helmet at people. That's ridiculous. Back on track. But, the hockey team obviously been in Ferris for a few straight years with them. But along with building that brand, or a part of building that brand, I think the first goal, unspoken, probably is let's win a district for the first time in nearly 50 years. This close last year. You were on vacation. You left me alone for that one. I know you were tuned in, and man, it felt like they had the game won against West Ottawa. But again, that's a little bit of the hands defense. And then West Ottawa, so well coached under Coach Windemuller. Of course, he is gone now. Coach Riddell comes in his place. But they were so close last year. They were so close a few years ago. I think that's goal 1. It's achievable. Zeeland West is looming. Who knows what West Ottawa might become. I think Zeeland West, Hudsonville, your main threats within that district. But I think it, again, is a goal that is one that, I think can be talked about a little bit with this team is on the cards. Not at home this year like it was last year. Such a perfect setup last year. But the district championship is something that I think could, again, be in the cards for this team coming out of a battle-tested, wide-open OK Red.
Yeah, I do think that's a realistic and a fairly attainable goal for the Bulldogs, and I think the end of last year kind of gives you hope that you build on that and can keep going. I think, especially when you're looking at the conference, which isn't totally tied to the district, of course, but when you're looking at
it kind of
is in most cases. But I think it's fairly wide open to the point where it's kind of built for a team like Grandville that was maybe towards the bottom of the standings to potentially you could see one of the bottom to top kind of flips in the conference when you're talking about teams that are returning talent and kind of the ups and downs and movement there as far as teams go. So I think you're looking at, you can have a pretty strong regular season, I think, is in the cards there as well, and then you build on that and some teams that you've had success against in the district playoffs kind of going to be there again to where you can hopefully get back to where you were and then finish out that game that they ended up losing.
And regular season will be so important because of trying to get some of the better playoff seeding, because you talk about the district, how it is obtainable. Well, a big part of it still is who are you playing? I mean, Zeeland West is going to be very good this year. I would say Zeeland West is probably the favorite to win the district. I think with some of these young guys, they have more so coming to age this season. Of course, Aldrink is the key of that. A D1 player. He's been a D1 recruited player since his freshman year, essentially, and been huge the whole time. And he's got some more pieces around him. Hudsonville, of course, and down the list it goes. That's kind of the key for me still is matchup, because all of a sudden if you do find Hudsonville, who they struggled with last year, I'm curious to see if they can kind of get over that boogeyman a little bit this year. Whether it's Hudsonville, whether it's Zeeland West, who knows what West Ottawa and these other teams look like. Like, that's the issue in the conference. I think Holland's got a decent young team as well. I believe the younger of the Van Heckens is a sophomore or a freshman now, potentially playing for them this year. So, or sophomore, I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, matchups is still so indicative in the district. That's why the whole season, I think, even though you're losing big pieces like Braden Gable, who you saw in these highlights hit the big shot against Grand Haven, like Trey Johnson, like some of these other guys, even though they lose all those pieces, it's still a well-rounded team that comes back for the Grandville boys, and I think that's going to be really interesting. We will briefly also touch on the Grandville girls. We aren't going to see them until the start of a doubleheader play. It looks like right now, you look ahead at our prospective schedule, just where these teams are playing the night that the boys are at Lowell. I think the plan is we'll have another Michigan Sports Radio team that should be doing that game. Otherwise, we're not going out to Lowell for a December basketball game. No offense to Lowell, but I'm not driving an hour and 10 minutes for a December basketball game. And also we have a really, really good game. Well, here's what it actually is. It's West. We've got a doubleheader of West Ottawa and Hamilton, so we'll see how alma mater play against a West Ottawa team that's really fun. So that's going to be a super, super fun matchup. Clash of style. I think Clash of Styles. We don't know what West Ottawa is.
We'll see.
But that'll be interesting. The girls' game has some really high level players as well. Reynolds for West Ottawa, Gurink for Hamilton, both kind of top level prospects. Kind of moving ahead to the next level in that one. So that'll be interesting. Girls, this is a prove-it year. They're off to a pretty good start. The first game of the year, they put really good performance, went 1-1 over last weekend at that the showcase they were at Petoskey. But I wrote it as a bit of a prove-it year for Coach Karpowitz's team. Some kind of changes to the coaching staff as well. I think this is the kind of year where they showed some flashes last year. They won some games. You've got a lot of 2, 3, 4-year juniors and seniors, especially in the backcourt. Of course, you have the next wave of Gregor's. Tessa returns as a kind of a wing. All that adds up, and of course the OK Red's tough. But I feel like this is kind of the first year where it's like we go from let's see if they can win some games non-conference, maybe steal a game against Caledonia or Grand Haven or whoever it may be here in their Jenison, to now it's more of all right, what can they actually do? Who can they actually maybe start to pick off, kind of through the middle part of the OK Red? That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think you've been able to see that program now building for a couple seasons. You go back a couple years and some tough seasons along in there, but now some of the players that were coming up as freshmen and sophomores getting into their last couple years as varsity players and able to return a strong core of players from last season. And again, in the OK Red Conference, you see some of the top teams that have been serious state title contenders throughout the last couple seasons, graduating some strong players from those teams to kind of where there's maybe going to be a little bit of turnover. And so, now you kind of look to the Bulldogs to potentially move up the rankings a little bit to where they've got some experience. Some of the other teams that were ahead of them that kind of had their number are potentially going to be, down completely, but, down relative to the state title contention type of teams. So I think, there's a realistic...
Hudsonville lost 2 D1 players. That's what he means.
Yeah, that's what I'm hitting around at. No, I do think the Bulldogs make some improvements this year, and I think they can be a competitive team in the OK Red.
Yeah. You look at this team, you look at McKellar, you look at Rakowski, players 3-4 years, they've been up. They're going to be kind of hitting that next level in their game. McKellar had 20 in the first game of the year to win, so I think she steps up. Gregor playing more on the wing, kind of looks like she's going to be listed as, so that could be an interesting shooting threat. So they got a little bit of size. It's an interesting team. The girls bring to the table. But like you said, the OK Red on the girls' side, and we'll preview the boys more in depth in a minute, but the OK Red on the girls' side, Rockford, of course, the favorite. I believe they also are among the favorites to win the state championship after coming close last year. We had a few of those games. Hudsonville's not dead yet. Maddie Petrulli is still back. Some of the wings are still back. You trust that Coach Glass is going to find some, players. He's going to have the system. Hudsonville is not dead yet. They will never be dead. They'll win the district every year for the next 40 years. It's not over for them. Yes, you lose a couple of players that are generational type talent in your backcourt. That we were there for those 2 players. You're talking 4 years. We saw every single game almost. It felt like that they played at least against Grandville, but we're there from the start. So it's interesting to watch an entire career go by of 4-year generational type talent. Yes, you lose it. Yes, you lose some other kind of key pieces, but you bring back a lot of young players around Petrulia. EK returns a lot, well coached. West Ottawa has Gabby Reynolds. They've got good coaching there. So it's still tough as ever, but I think it's outside of Rockford as wide open as ever in the OK Red, and that's where there might be a game or two to pick off for Grandville possibly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. I think a little unfortunate that is you have the power of Hudsonville maybe slightly down a little bit. Of course, Rockford going to be right back there and kind of taking that place, so not catching a break there in that sense. But I think overall, you're talking about a lot of teams that can be competitive right there, can steal some games. I think we're talking about the same thing on the boys' side when you look at both of the OK Red conferences, where there's maybe a clear-cut 1 or 2 teams at the top, but other than that, you've got a lot of teams that are going to be right there to make some noise. I don't think there's a specific team throughout the conference that you're looking at that's going to be non-competitive, as is often the case, but I think definitely opportunity there to potentially make some noise.
All right, let's step aside one last time. We'll do our preseason Power 6 for boys basketball, and we'll also do our preseason OK Red ranking projections. So we'll be right back with that to wrap up the show.
Can you name the 10 winners of the Nobel Peace Prize or the last 5 Miss Americas? The point is the applause dies and the achievements are forgotten. But can you name 3 friends who helped you through tough times or teachers who encouraged you in school? We remember those who make a difference in our lives. I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities. What matters to us are the personal relationships we have with our clients, helping them build a secure financial future. As a Centennial Securities customer, you know what I mean. If you're not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA. Daniel the deer danced everywhere. He pranced through fields and jigged through rivers. Then he saw it. What a stage! A place no deer had dared dance before. The hood of a brand new car.
Hey, my car!
And the car was covered, thanks to Farmers Insurance. Deer Dance Floor, December 1st, 2014. Talk to a farmer's agent. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Contact the Scott Bates Agency today, 616-531-3441. A proud supporter of MichiganGameNight.com.
All right, welcome back to Tailgate Report. All right, let's go big picture. Let's preview Power 6. Of course, first off, if you're watching this week of December 5, which is what we're shooting this on, first off, you'll know if the show came out on Wednesday or not. It mostly comes down to how fast can Nate edit if it comes out on Tuesday for everyone. Friday, 6:30, Grandville versus Wyoming. Terrific game. I love watching Wyoming play. We saw them a couple years ago. They are the fastest, the meanest, the most aggressive basketball team. You're talking about Coach Young wanting to test his guards. These boys are going to test you immediately because they blitz you out of the gym right away. What they did a few years ago to that Grandville team that struggled a few years ago, that team, that was kind of a rebuild year in the middle of Klingler's run. Wyoming, though, and I can't. The fact that's what starts the year, I am looking forward to that so much.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be interesting. I think talk about a real test early on. I mean, you're not talking about like a warm up game here or there. I mean, you're immediately going from scrimmages to facing that, and that's going to be interesting to see how they respond to the style.
It's going to be tough to grind it the way that Grandville wants to. You know, they're going to tempt you into running with them, and they're going to force you full court. The good news is Grandville's going to have 3-4 ball handlers on the floor at all times, so that's what really helps. It was a couple years ago when they didn't have a ball handler that year because that was the same year that Benton Harbor and Scooby Johnson came into town and did similar things to them. But that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see that game. If Grandville goes in, slows it down, grinds it, plays their pace, wins that game, that'll be kind of my first note of, all right, there's something here. There's definitely something. Then we have the 35-second shot clock at the invite. We start, first game is 1:32. I'm not 100% sure. That'll be on social media. We'll have Grandville versus Calvin Christian. Another well-coached. You go from the speed of Wyoming to Calvin Christian, who's always a little bit slower, a little bit more post-oriented, whatever they got with players. Forest Hill Central, Kanawha Hills. Forest Hill Central always has great shooting. Kanawha Hills has a top-level player there, and then South Christian Northview is the game of the day. Northview, I mean, you lose a D1 player, in Vanderjacht, and you replace it with 4 transfers, or 3, or however many it is. But regardless, college free agency has made it. We spoke about Belleville earlier, and now I'm going to really get in trouble. And now you see Northview regenerating their lineup, and all of a sudden, they get, because both Swartz boys from Mona Shores come over. They get Terrell Jefferson from Thornapple Kellogg, who we saw a couple times, really good point guard as well, and then some of the other young guys, the Ryan boys. You have freshmen, you've got EJ back, so they're good. That's a state title contender in Division I, and then South Christian is very, very good. DeHaan, of course, also a good basketball player up and down, Viss as well. So, and then Catholic Central Rockford will be a fun one. I'll probably stay and watch for maybe a little bit of that one, because that'll be a lot of fun. So that's all coming up, of course, MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. All week long. This show, and then Friday and Saturday. A lot of action to start our season, and we've got a lot of fun stuff next week coming up as well. And then into the week of Christmas, we'll have a couple games, couple nights from the Cornerstone holiday tournament, where it will be the nights Grandville plays. Likely there will be a Grandville-Northview matchup coming up in that. So all that coming up, Power 6. Let's actually start with the OK Red. OK Red, you know how this works if you watched our football shows. We'll do the same thing in a preview. We'll go bottom 3, middle 3, top couple. I'll let you start with your 8, 7, and 6 picks in the OK Red.
All right. I'm going to start off at 8. I've got Jenison. 7, I've got Caledonia. And 6, I'm going West Ottawa. Did we match?
We matched.
We didn't plan that. Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure that's ever happened before. You're reading off. I'm like, all right. I mean, the teams to watch, of course, Caledonia finds a way to win all the time. Like, Caledonia's a team that always gets ranked 7th and then finishes 4th. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
Yep.
Again, it very likely will happen again. And then West Ottawa, we got to see. I just, if I'm someone I think on my record, I always felt Coach Windemuller might be the best coach in West Michigan. I always felt, or right there, just what he did with teams, even on years where he didn't quite have the talent. Like, I mean, last year's team was good as last season, but that wasn't his most talented team, and he had him on the doorstep of the Breslin Center in D1. Like, I mean, that's crazy. What they did to De La Salle, the eventual state champion. I mean, De La Salle, they put up that 3-2 zone. Those De La Salle kids looked at it and just dribbled the ball for 40 seconds. They had no idea. They shot a 28-foot three, and then I guess it was mission accomplished. But the problem is they had that freshman that made 14 of them or whatever from 30 feet. But no, that's I got the same at the bottom. I'll go next 5, 4, and 3. And I think this is where we're going to start probably getting some differences, and where I'm going to have some differences from the rest of the area as well. 5, I have East Kentwood. 4, I have Grand Haven. Okay. That's probably where a lot lower than where most people have them. 3, I have the Grandville Bulldogs.
Okay.
I'll talk about my rationale with that in a minute. I'll let you go now. And I know I'm probably the one that's going to be more out of order on this.
Okay, yeah, we're slightly different there. I'm going Hudsonville 5.
Okay.
East Kentwood 4.
Nate picks Hudsonville to win again.
Yeah. Sounds like football. But
no,
and then we're agreeing at 3. I've got the Bulldogs at 3 as well. I think that's kind of the right spot. I think that's higher than they finished the last couple seasons, but I think we're both optimistic of what the Bulldogs will be. I think East Kentwood 2. I think if you're looking for a dark horse to potentially win the OK Red, you're talking East Kentwood with a new coaching staff there. I think I bumped them up to kind of more middle of the pack 4, but I think there's potential to be even higher.
Oh, for sure. They're my. I mean, again, almost everyone in the top 7. I don't think Jennison's going to make. They're like the one team, and I guess I haven't seen them, so who knows? Because the OK Red, they spoiled some games last year for sure.
They sure did.
But when I look at it, East Coast, so Mike Thomas is their coach. If you don't know much about Mike Thomas, he won 2 championships at Kalamazoo Central 2010, 2011, and then he's been at Grand Blanc. They won the state championship in 2021. Of course, unbelievable talent there the last couple years. And then they lost the state championship to De La Salle this past year. And then in a blaze of glory, he left Grand Blanc this offseason. I think there were some things he was not happy about in terms of support that, despite their success, they weren't getting. So he goes to a program that I think has a chance, if they get this thing rolling, to really embrace it. They have talent traditionally. Like, Mike Thomas has a chance at East Kentwood here to turn this thing into a power of the West Side. We talk about what kind of Northview's become. I think East Kentwood could become that. I 100% agree. Grand Haven's the one I probably have to explain myself on. They still lost some pieces. I know Sorrell and stuff comes back, but you lose a guy like Stump, and I want to see how it all comes together. I want to see their young guys. And then Grandville at 3. Maybe just because we're Grandville people, we're higher on them than we're most people may have them down in the 5-6 range, and I understand that. But I've been kind of enlightened that it's so open. I think they have a chance to steal some games, to grind some out, and even if they do finish 6th or 7th again, they could go on and win the district, because I believe the world in Desmond Young. I have become such a fan in 2 years. That's the number one thing I will say about watching him coach this team, is I become a huge, huge fan of that guy and what he can do with the program very quickly. And I loved Coach Klingler as well. I thought he is a heck of a ball coach, and I think Coach Young has come in and really done he's got a great approach and really can build this thing well. Top 2. I'll let you go. I went last time.
Okay, I've got.
I think we know where probably both are going at this point.
Yep, I've got Grand Haven 2.
Okay,
and I've got Rockford 1.
Yep. So we are going to have the same one, and then obviously that leaves me Hudsonville 2. So my thought with Hudsonville is, Coach Elliott, very good. Really like him. Like his style of kind of the grinding play in a conference that's going to be a little bit quicker than I think it's ever been this year. I mean, you think about Rockford's a little bit faster. Grandville's a little bit faster than they have been. Grand Haven runs. East Kentwood's going to run this year. West Otto will probably be faster than 4 possessions a quarter. Caledonia is going to be slow. Jennison's going to be somewhere in there. Like, in a conference that's faster, a team that grinds it, they play that kind of, I think it's a matchup zone a lot of the time. It's, kind of a physical, unique kind of defense. They double the post a lot. It's a no-middle type defense, kind of like the Texas Tech system, a little bit visually when you think about what they run. And then you have Shamray coming back, and then they have a freshman, a small freshman as well. It's a really talented young player. They got some pieces around. They got to replace guys like Zank on the wing, of course, which is easier said than done. Dykstra on the inside. I think this Hudsonville team is going to kind of quietly build things back. They're the team that's going to have play a different style, steal some games. I have them 2, which is their peak, mostly because it's a shtick at this point in time that I just pick Hudsonville every year. I have them 2. They could finish 6 or 7. That's almost true of everyone except the top team. We have them at the top for a reason. Who they did lost, they replaced with those kids' brothers. And they're well coached, of course, with Coach Clough. This Rockford team is good. They know their system. I think they're I think they're going to start to finish with a mess behind them. I think they're going to front run this division all year.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about a Rockford team, usually it's been in the past maybe not one star player that carries them, throughout the season. It's a team effort, and I think they've got that again. They've got the players there, returning players with some experience. Of course, the coaching staff stayed in place, so some consistency there. Some of the other teams more in the middle of the pack had some changes, whether that was for East Kentwood bumping them up or for West Ottawa bumping them down. Yeah. But I think that consistency is going to help them. But yeah, I think overall, looking back, at the standings last year, you see a similar story. I think you kind of see a repeat of that where you've got a couple teams at the top that are going to be right there. They might lose a couple games in conference, but for the most part, going to dominate the conference season. And then you've got 5 to 6 teams that are all going to be potentially within a game of each other.
And again, one more note on West Ottawa. The only reason why we're saying that we're bumping them down in the coaching is because we think the world, both of us have coached Windemar. Yes. So Coach Riddell he's a West Ottawa grad. He comes from North Point Christian. I think he's been there since 2012. If you know anything about that team, there is no, Class C division. I still call it Class C. I'm not changing my mind. I think they're mostly Class C kind of level school that has the, just year-over-year constant success. They play well. They played Grandville last year, really tight, good game at the Cornerstone Invite. So he's a terrific coach. They're not going to – they very likely may not miss a beat. We're just saying they drop because you and I, there's the one opinion we definitely share probably more firmly than any other opinion in high school sports is our feelings on Coach Windemar and how good he is. And hopefully he gets a chance to get back into the coaching ranks. One of these days, a guy that operates a business here in Holland around us as well. So always really it's disappointing not to get to see him coach this year. Ready for some Power 6?
I am.
All right. Okay, Red, so we both have Rockford. So I don't think we have to talk about that too much more. I think we just went in depth on what we think the OK Red may look like. I believe this is going to be football. We had some discussions, I felt like, all year long. I'm not sure. This is going to be probably more discussions about the honorable mentions in a lot of cases. OK Green, good teams here, very good conference, better basketball conference than it is a football conference, which is crazy to say. Yep. But Muskegon's running away with it. This is the best team Coach Guy has had in a while. Everyone was young last year. Mackay Guy, on and on and on. Return. There's good teams behind them, I think. And maybe you have something. I don't think you – or do you?
I don't know.
Okay,
this is one that maybe I was putting more thought in than I should have. But I agreed with you. I was going to have Muskegon as my pick there. I think Zeeland West has a chance to be right there.
Yeah, and that's who I was going to mention. And then Wyoming as well.
Yes.
So we mentioned, kind of those teams that play different styles and can wear, but I think Muskegon's talent is the best it's been since 1920, probably. I think it's that level of talent. They were so young last year and bring almost everyone back.
Yep. Yeah, I think it will be interesting. Just at a zoomed out glance at those couple teams is when you've got Muskegon with the terrific guard play and their style there, and there's some skill players there, and then you've got Zeeland West with the size and some strong forwards, some big guys up there. So not only as they go back and forth in our power rankings here, but actually on the court to see them battle it out, it's going to be interesting.
Mona Shores have been really good if Northview didn't steal their 2 best players. Which again, when's the last time Mona Shores lost a transfer like that? Right. By the way, I mean their football program haven't lost transfers very much. You're not going to expound upon that, or
no? I thought maybe you were yet.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you weren't going to. I want to make sure we left that alone. OK White, Northview is here.
Yep.
Grand Rapids Christian, of course, well coached. Grand Rapids Christian, top 5 team in the area. However, they aren't winning this conference because what Deion Sanders is to Colorado this next year, what Lincoln Riley was to USC, they hit the portal this offseason. They already had a lot of great talent. They hit the portal this offseason, and they came up with some real winners that make a big difference and add a lot of talent on the wing inside on this team. This Northview team's really good. Not very often can you lose a guy like Kyler Vanderjagt Jalen Charity, and you maybe get better, this team 1 through 5, 1 through 8 might be better than last year's team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we both think they're pretty reloaded. I mean, you list off the names earlier in the show, and when you bring that many players in to a team that still was returning some talent, yeah, they lost the top couple players there, but they still had some pieces, and then you bring all that talent in on top of it, and I think you're talking about something special.
Yeah, so you already bring back, so you have E.J. Ryan's coming back, his younger brother, his name Cam, I think, so you could bring a freshman that's like the top-rated freshman in the area, and then all the other talent, the top of the Swartzes, the Jeffersons, and everyone else that they bring in, like that's a good team. Grand Rapids Christian, of course, very good, very talented team. They're well coached, of course, and they may have a chance to steal a game from Northview, but that team is good. That's the best team, I think, top to bottom, West Michigan. I'm looking forward to seeing them against South Christian on Saturday. Go to the OK Blue. This is the one that actually is, I think, the most wide open, and it's because a lot of teams lost a lot. Unity Christian lost a lot. They lost everything pretty much from that team. You bring back kind of some young guards, some up and coming guards. They also bring back Scott Sudsma. Hamilton returns a lot. West Catholic returns some pieces. I'll let you give your thoughts first. Who do you have winning the OK Blue this year?
Yeah, I've got Unity.
You do have Unity.
I've got
so
Unity to win it. I think, they did lose 4 of the starting 5.
There's someone listening right now that's mad because we were instructed to pick Hamilton.
Yeah, well, okay.
I know he's out there listening.
Yep, I was going to go on to give him his acknowledgement here. I think I've got to pick Unity when you're talking about a coaching staff that can make a difference and can really kind of guide a team along after losing 4 of your 5 starters on a team that was super talented. I think very similar story to football for Unity Christian, where they lose a lot, but you're still talking about.
They also didn't win the conference in football, so I guess. Hang on a second.
Yeah. I guess I should say I still got players there.
I'm not sure you're making the argument we want.
I guess I should have thought about that a little bit more, but no, they're still going to be a good team, and I think a tremendous coach there that's going to elevate them as the season goes along. I was told to pick Hamilton.
You were.
I was told to pick Hamilton. I've been told they are back. This is the
year. This is the year.
This is for the 5th year straight.
You hear how Texas is back. Our alma mater is back this year.
This is going on the 4th or 5th year. Yeah. They've been back. They haven't been back yet, but this is officially it. I do think I will say Hamilton will be improved.
I think they will. They return a lot. They're a fun team, and we're going to see them early in the season. They're a fun team. Above all else, they're fast. I think they have a transfer that comes in as well. That's kind of a top level, like even I think a D1 prospect. The last time Hamilton had a D1 prospect was probably their 1984 championship team at the basketball level. So, that is on the boys' side at least. They've had some girls' top level players the last 2 years, but not as much on the boys' side. So that will be interesting to see what they're able to do, but I agree. I mean, they lose some, of course, at Unity Christian. I mean, whenever you lose the kind of talent they had, it's tough. But you know what? Scott Sudsma, he'll have that blue towel flailing. He'll have them coached up as he always does this year. They're gonna be mean. They're gonna run. I mean, you talk about like a team like Hamilton that wants to run. They're gonna run them all over the place. So I do have Unity Christian as well. Eventually coming out of that. Interesting one here, a little bit as well to talk about. Grand Rapids Catholic Central invite the last little bit is the OK Gold. But we mentioned how good South Christian is with some good pieces there. Grand Rapids Catholic Central, they return both of their D1 level guards. They've got some young guys, but they don't really have anything on the inside this year. South Christian, of course, very good at guards and shooting as well. I mean, this is the year that they slayed the Giant in football. Do you think they slayed the Giant this year in basketball?
I picked that. Yes,
you did. Okay,
I did. Yeah, this is maybe uncharted territory for me here. Going.
You're going. Okay, so FYI, I picked Catholic Central. So I'm going chalk. You're not.
Yeah, this is weird. I don't know how this happened, but I've picked South Christian to win. I think that's not really a huge disrespect to Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
They win every other game except for
I think you listed why they're still going to be a serious threat, but kind of felt like never fully acknowledged what South Christian was on the football field, and so I'm getting ahead of it when it comes to basketball. Many of the stars from that football team are going to be playing basketball, so I think they've got some serious athletes there, and I think they look to maybe make it a sweep in the football basketball.
No, I think like their entire basketball team is made up of their football stars. I mean, DeHaan, Viss, all those different guys are there. So for Catholic Central, yes, you lose Karasinski on the inside, and you don't have that interior presence they've had, but you have 2 Division I guards at the guard spots. You have KK Brown, you have Fat Brooks, each returning. That's the difference for me. Is yes, there's a lot of talent. There's a good team, and I like team basketball, so maybe I should be picking South Christian. There's a good team around, but the top-level talent that you bring to the table for Catholic Central, I think is still just going to be undeniable within the gold. I could see South Christian pulling off, but I think at the end of the day, talent rules in basketball more than almost any other sport a lot of times when it comes down to it, and I think that's exactly what you're going to ultimately wind up seeing in that regard. Let's wrap up the Power Six with the OK Silver. This is one we were kind of all over the place, Chandler, throughout football season, of course. Thankfully, there's a non-football, or at least kind of for this season, really a non-football variable that is high on the basketball list that helps make things easy. I got Calvin Christian winning. We're going to see them early on in the year, but of course, Coach Stevens always so well coached there. They got a lot of good talent, and in a conference that doesn't feature a ton outside of them, unless there's someone I'm missing, I think they're in good position.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yep.
They've got Calvin Christian, 19-4 last season, leading scorer and rebounder. Carson DeHaan is back. That's research
helpful.
There. So
Yep.
I've got Calvin Christian.
Yeah, they have other good young pieces too, so they're always well coached. They are always good. All right. It's basketball season. It's time to go, and this is where, it gets fun. We'll probably try to do maybe some more tailgate reports and more check-ins kind of at the midway point, or we'll probably for sure do some sort of bracketology show, I think, of some nature before the playoffs start. But the good news about basketball is we don't have to sit here and just talk all week long about games like we do during football season. We have games just constantly. I mean, by the time conference season comes along, you'll see us Tuesday night. You'll see us Friday night. You might see us on some Saturdays for showcases. At minimum, of course, we're doing the invite. I plan also working with formerly Coach Guyton. He no longer, of course, is the head coach of the Red Hawks of Union, but what used to be the Red Hawks Showcase, now the 2K23 Showcase. The hope is I'm sure we'll be back doing quite a few of those games as well. There's some other invites around the area as well that we'll check into. We've got some fun things for the season. Inside Baseball, we actually have a new broadcast cam. If you actually watched it, we had a little bit different graphics and stuff going on at Ford Field. It lets us do some new, interesting, unique things. I'm hoping, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. That may even mean some different video, some different other options throughout this season, because there's kind of some interesting things with huddle cams and stuff at Grandville we might be able to get worked out for at least home games, and we'll see. There's a lot coming this basketball season. Trust me, there will be hockey coming as well this basketball season. All that coming up. You ready to roll?
Oh, yeah.
We are ready to roll. Thanks for tuning in to the Tailgate Report Basketball Preview Special here on MGN. He is Nate Dreyer. I am Chandler.
Wow.
We're going to leave this in.
All right.
This is staying in the show. He is Chandler Timmer. I am Nate Dreyer. This is what happens when you work together for 6 years. The names are one.
We're just one, yeah.
Chandler Timmer, Nate Dreyer. Chandler Timmer, Nate Dreyer. Michigan Game Night, Tailgate Report. We clearly have to stop talking. I do at least. I will see you all. I see you too. Friday night, Grandville, Wyoming. I think 6:30. We're on the air for that. Goodbye.